Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Nigeria's main city sees an easing of coronavirus lockdowns. Though many businesses are still shut and social distancing measures still in place, they are, though, difficult to maintain for those rushing to get back to work in Lagos and Abuja. Also, South Africa too sees a rollback of some of the coronavirus precautions. About 1.5 million people there can return to work after 5 weeks of lockdown. And Morocco sets up shelters for homeless people following shelter-in-place orders. Even for those who do have somewhere of their own, in a country where the informal economy accounts for more than 20% of GDP, the lockdown is tough going. We hear from our correspondents in the kingdom. But first, Nigeria started rolling back some of its coronavirus restrictions in Lagos and Abuja. The continent's top economy has been weighed down by more than 4 weeks of strict lockdowns in some of its more densely populated areas. Those are being gradually eased over the next 6 weeks. Samuel Okoye tells us more.
A day after the Nigerian government partially lifted the lockdown of two major Nigerian cities, we're talking of Abuja, the federal capital, and then Lagos, the commercial capital, things clearly did not go too well. We saw very disturbing scenes from outside of banks where you have very large crowd trying to get into these banks. We saw disturbing scenes from markets that were very crowded. And there were, of course, very disturbing scenes from markets which were also very crowded. People did not maintain social distance. Many people did not use masks. And this was clearly against the health directive from the government that masks should be used, social distances should be observed. But then many are happy to be out for the first time in 5 weeks to do businesses. They have various opinions as to the effect of this of the lifting of the lockdown.
Yeah, it was really a big loss for everybody, not even only us. And for us, we sell perishable goods here, so we need to open every day. So for it to lock down for weeks, then that's quite a big issue for us. But thank God for us reopening again. Everything will start buzzing, and we need to sanitize ourselves, keep ourselves safe, and we're sure God will help us and put everything down in the end of coronavirus in Lagos and in Nigeria.
It's a big suffering. I suffer a lot. I cannot eat. There's no food. There's no money to buy food. So today I'm happy that they say we should come outside. They say we should close by 3 p.m. So I'm happy that we are out today.
The main challenges today is that it is morning that we open. There's no customers. And we see that because people have exhausted all the money they have, that's why everywhere is dry now.
Before the government partially lifted this lockdown, a number of groups, especially medical workers, have warned the government that you cannot lift this lockdown at this particular time because we have the cases of coronavirus are increasing by the day. And of course, these unions will try to justify their standards, the manner in which people have disregarded health warnings, people have gone about their normal businesses as if nothing was happening. It will definitely increase cases of coronavirus, which they said Nigeria doesn't have the facilities, we don't have the manpower. So there's a fear that if we have increased cases, it could be very difficult. But I think on the other hand, the government also was concerned about business, that if you lock up, if there's a lockdown then for too long, then people will not be able to do their businesses. I think what we are faced with now is a case of trying to make a balance between allowing people to go out and then at the same time ensuring that these people do not endanger their lives and endanger the lives of others by getting exposed to the coronavirus.
Sam Olukoya there for us in Lagos. Well, staying with Nigeria, $311 million stolen by a former Nigerian leader have been returned to the country. The funds are some of the estimated $5 billion siphoned off by military leader Sani Abacha from 1993 until his death in 1998. The recovered money has been handed back by the US and the UK dependency of Jersey. Nigeria's Justice Ministry says that the cash would be used to fund the building of transport infrastructure. And for the first time in 5 weeks, there were queues at taxi ranks in South Africa as about 1.5 million people there headed into the first working day after 5 weeks of coronavirus restrictions. Businesses there have been allowed to partially start up again and public transport's running, even though those who can work from home are still being asked to do so. Nicola Chemin tells us more.
In South Africa, the mining, manufacturing and selected retail sectors have begun reopening with up to 30% of their workforce. An estimated 1.5 million people returned to work on Monday. Among them was the manager of this tyre store.
The biggest relief to come back to work, of course it does. Is we have to get back to normal life. Normally March, April is our busy time due to Easter weekend, people going away. You know, there's a lot of people that travel during that time, so it took a big knock on us, staff as well.
The lockdown lasted 5 weeks, but it is only being eased slowly. Stores like this paint shop now have disinfectants.
All staff that comes in, all staff that goes out of the store regularly, every hour we have got a sanitizer that they need to sanitize themselves. We don't allow anybody into the store, obviously, without sanitizing them, and we won't allow anybody in without a mask, for the safety of them and obviously our staff.
On Monday, there were long queues of people asking for social grants. The government recognised that the poor were the hardest hit by the lockdown as they often rely on daily earnings.
We are scared of coronavirus, but since we know that the procedures are there, we can defeat it through following the rules.
Among the new rules, South Africans can now start jogging again, but they must stay within 5 kilometres of their homes.
The head of Tanzania's National Health Lab and its quality manager have been suspended and put under investigation. President John Magufuli had raised questions about the accuracy of imported coronavirus testing kits being used by the lab. The leader says that he had secretly ordered testing of randomly collected animal, mineral and fruit samples that were then labelled as if they came from real people, and that some of those samples came back as being positive for coronavirus. The Health Ministry has said that it's formed a committee to look into the running of the lab.
When we took a papaya sample for a COVID-19 test, we labelled the sample as Elizabeth Ann, age 26 female. The result came out positive. This means those fluids inside the papaya are coronavirus positive, something which is totally insane.
Well, thousands of Kenyans have lost their homes after a river burst its banks in the west of the country. Heavy rainfall swelled the waters of the river Nzoia over last week and have also caused landslides in the region. Flooding's been reported across 29 counties. At least 116 people are believed to have lost their lives because of the recent extreme weather. And tributes are being paid to a top Kenyan journalist who's passed away. Chege Bitiru died aged 77 of cardiac arrest. His weekly column in one of the country's most popular papers, The Sunday Nation, was widely read. His career saw him cover landmark events in East Africa, including the Rwandan genocide in 1994 and the 1998 US embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania. Well, Morocco set up special centres for homeless people with nowhere else to go as the rest of the kingdom follows stay-at-home orders. Even for those who do have somewhere of their own to shelter in place. In a country where the informal economy accounts for more than 20% of GDP, the lockdown is tough going. Our correspondent sent this report.
Like every year during the month of Ramadan, the Al Amal Association is preparing its deliveries. Dealing with confinement this year's conditions are particularly difficult for poor families.
Le flux a été augmenté de 35% par rapport à l'année dernière, puisque ce confinement, il a augmenté les besoins des gens, puisqu'il n'y a plus de travail, il n'y a plus rien.
Volunteers organise distribution in the slums, poor neighbourhoods and rural zones. Together, these associations are helping around 5,000 families in need across the kingdom. Generosity is an aspect of the Ramadan festival period, and this year it's being amplified by the COVID-19 crisis. In the kitchen of this large restaurant, teams are preparing 500 daily meals for homeless people, which are then distributed by an association.
Nos restaurants étant fermés, et une perte d'activité totale, il fallait bien contribuer d'une manière ou d'une autre et on n'allait pas rester les bras croisés.
With the introduction of a curfew, a solution had to be found for people forced to live on the street. The government has turned 90 centres into proper shelters throughout the country, helping around 5,000 homeless people. Here, a school has been refurbished in less than a week. In these reception centres, health rules are being followed to the letter. No beneficiary has tested positive for COVID-19 to date. Visitors from outside need to take precautions because for the homeless, these centres are their places of confinement.
There's been an immediate surge of solidarity. There are also good things to come out of this crisis. There are temporary shelters, which are becoming permanent centres. They're working on the reintegration of homeless people into society, and it's really great to see.
These centres are supposed to be temporary shelters for those left most vulnerable to the health crisis, but Moroccan charities clearly want them to stay on a more permanent basis.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.